Hi, Nick Biron from 360 Insights. And I wanted to hop on a video because I just got off a call and it really struck me because, if we talk to a lot of customers here at 360 Insights, and one of the things that we're finding that is truly winning the day when it comes to software and technology purchases isn't so much the feature and functionality of a platform. What we're finding is that's becoming table stakes, quite honestly. And we've spoke about this quite extensively in some of the writing and videos we've been doing, where software and technology, it has grown in such leaps and bounds over the past few years that, quite honestly, most technology has capacity way beyond what the typical and average user would end up using. So at the end of the day, it does become such a strong perspective for a client, but at the same time, it's not a differentiating factor because so many different other software platforms are actually developing very similar feature and functionalities. And I always hate saying this when I talk to vendors, but it's the truth. So what's really winning the day? And when we talk to customers and we ask, why did you choose vendor A versus B? Why did you stay with vendor A over the long period of time and renew with them? What we find more and more is how sales is winning the day. And I've talked about this before, where essentially they're telling us that sales is more prepared. They're taking the time to answer the questions. If it's a renewal, that their team, from a responsive standpoint, when there's an issue, is much more responsive. They take their feedback a lot more seriously and other aspects like that. But I want to take a step back to why I was prompted to do this video, and it's the demo. What I find is that there's a couple different styles when it comes to doing demos. And quite honestly, as a research firm, a lot of organizations love doing demos with us. And what we find is that there's a couple different styles, but one style that I will tell you that does not work, and I just wish organizations would get off of this bandwagon, because not only is it not effective for us as an analyst organization, but at the same time, it's not effective to your customers as well. And that's the show up and throw up. Essentially, when a team comes onto a call with the purpose of doing a demo, and their goal is to get from point A to point B in the hour or so long conversation. And essentially, what they do is they spend that entire time talking and showcasing the products. What they fail to do is check in with the customer. They fail to ask questions. And quite honestly, a lot of the times I find that even when us as analysts try to step in and ask questions, they will quickly address them, but essentially bowl over those questions just to move in to the demo. And quite honestly, this happened to us in our last call where we asked several questions. And at one point in time, we even said we have a couple minutes left in the conversation and love to have some open dialogue with them. And my analyst had a question, they addressed it, but then they said we only have 4 minutes left and we want to showcase the last three features. This is a major miss because, let me be clear, when you look at most software platforms in a certain category, there isn't much difference between them all. I've joked about this with certain, I would say, practitioners, where we say, well, at the end of the day, um, we've seen them all. They're all the same. They're just different colors. And one practitioner was like, yeah, we haven't seen yellow yet. It's a joking way to essentially say, at the end of the day, from a feature functionality set, I know your team spends a lot of time on these platforms developing the solutions. They want to showcase the beauty of what you put together, but the reality is it's becoming table stakes. Your customers know that you have this. So how do you change the show up and throw up? The first thing is, I wouldn't have a pre-plan to get from point A to point B to throughout the entire call. You want to have the proper demo environment set up. You want to have certain paths that you want to take the customer, but what you want to make sure that you're doing is being interactive. You want to start with asking the customer, what is it that they most care about, that they really want to look at? What are they having in terms of challenges within their existing environment that they'd like to solve? Why are they looking at you as a particular organization? And really start the conversation that way. So that way you're not trying to get from point A to point B that's on your agenda. You're really taking the time that showcases to the customer what they care about most. But it doesn't stop there. You have to take time. So you have to go through a section, take time to stop. Ask questions of your customer. Ask them their thoughts. Ask them how would they potentially see this in their environment? Is there something that they want to actually dive into a little bit deeper to review? Is there another aspect that they're curious about in terms of what they're seeing? And you want to make sure that you're doing this in pretty even intervals. Because I will tell you that the call that I was just in, they went into a demo and essentially they spent, I would be willing to say 45 minutes straight going through their demo where the person doing the presentation, I don't know if they actually asked one question throughout that entire 45 minutes, maybe one, but it was almost like they didn't even take time to breathe. They were rushing so fast because they wanted to get through the entire demo. Um, it made it a very difficult experience because essentially they were showing us a lot of the same feature functionalities that we've seen before. And one of the things that we were very clear about is we want to see what's different. What is different in terms of your platform over the competition? What is something that you're seeing that your customers are getting great use out of or really impacting their business? And the problem was is that they were so focused on their own journey is that they kind of skipped over that. They didn't talk about how this is different, how it's different from what an organization, another vendor might be doing. And I'm going, again, like always in my videos, a little long-winded, but that's the big challenge. Again, to kind of circle back, we're finding that feature and functionality isn't winning the day. It's becoming table stakes. Customers are expecting that you have the software and technology that can solve their needs. And what they're really starting to get to, and what's really starting to win the deal, are the sales teams that are more engaged in understanding their needs and really just being responsive to what they're looking for, questions and aspects like that. Demo is a very important part of the sales process because everyone wants to understand and look at the software. What does it do? How's it going to impact their organization? But when showcasing a software, the objective shouldn't be going from point A to point B on your agenda. It should be to basically take your customer on a journey that really showcases the platform and I would say features and functionality that they could potentially value the most. It starts with doing homework up front, understanding why are they looking to make a change? What do they don't like about the platform? And setting up pathways within the demo that way. But then starting the conversation up front with almost like in a contract. We call it a verbal contract of here's what we plan on going for. What do you want to see? What would you prefer to get out of the platform? And then as you start going through the journey of the demos, taking the time, stopping, asking questions, understanding again how would they foresee this being used within their platform? Is this really what they're looking for or hoping for? Because if you only have 45 minutes to an hour with this customer and you just bowl right over them in terms of your own feature functionality, and guess what? Your competitor ends up doing the same thing, it then becomes a price war because essentially your competitor is probably showing the same thing. Or if they happen to have a better demo team and they show up more prepared, asking questions, being more consultative to their end customer or prospect, they're probably going to win. You could have much more superior software and technology, but if that sales team really shows that they care about their prospect, really care about the journey, they're going to win. So hope you find this video valuable, but I really wanted to share this because, again, as a research firm, we sit through demos and briefings all the time. And there are some that find are very interactive. Those are very memorable in terms of conversations. However, if a vendor shows up and basically bowls us over for 60 minutes or 45 minutes straight, it's not as memorable. And quite honestly, we don't get as much out of the demo, and they don't either because we don't get a chance to actually provide them thoughts and feedback and dialogue, which is something that I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but it's another thing that analysts like to do, not just 360 insights. All of the analysts that I talk to are always eager to helping out their customers. And one of the best ways that I'd say customers and prospects. And one of the best ways that we can do that is by providing feedback. And a lot of the times, unless you're a Forrester or Gartner, which I know that they have directives to not really talk during demos and briefings, you're going to find that people are going to want to share their perspective and share their view. And we're very, I don't want to say educated, but we see these demos. We talk to customers all the time. And it should be a view that you should want to get. You should want to basically stop and say, from an analyst perspective, what do you guys think of this? Is this what you're seeing with the competition? Is this what you're seeing what customers want? So again, thank you so much for taking the time.